Hi there, this is Ike Hoffman with Tactical Real Estate Solutions, and today we're going to be reviewing and scrubbing a multifamily financial statement and inputting the numbers into Tactica's multifamily pro forma template. If you need a pro forma tool, there's a link below where you can download the template that I'm featuring in this video for free. I also want to note that if you're using Tactica's value add or redevelopment models, the processes I unveil in this video are the exact same to scrub and input financials for those models as well. Profit and loss or P&L statements come in all shapes and sizes as owners have various software options to manage their properties. It can take some scrubbing and massaging to make the historical financial statements fit into the framework of the pro forma model. Today I'm going to teach you my methods of financial scrubbing when historical financial statements are messy and unorganized. If you've been enjoying Tactica's real estate analysis content, I'd really appreciate if you'd liked the video, subscribed, and turned on your notifications. Let's go ahead and take a look at a set of sloppy financials and quickly scrub the numbers to make them seamlessly fit into our pro forma structure. I have two different Excel workbooks opened up. On the left side, we're on the Financials tab of Tactica's Multifamily Pro Forma template, and on the right side, we have a profit and loss statement from an apartment building that covers the 2022 calendar year. In the pro forma template, we want to categorize our expenses in 9 separate categories, specifically admin, marketing, management fee, payroll, utilities, repairs and maintenance, contract services, insurance, and apartment real estate taxes. When we look at the P&L, there's 28 unique expense codes. The P&L in its current state doesn't fit nicely into our pro forma template. We have two different options on how we could approach this and get all these numbers into the pro forma. I think there's a bad option. First, let's cover what I think is the worst option, and that would be inputting every unique expense code into the pro forma template. This is overwhelming, it's really hard to spot out trends, and it's way more tedious when it comes time to underwrite. The better option, I think, is to categorize every unique expense code. This way, it'll be easier to spot trends and it'll be much more manageable when it comes to making our pro forma underwriting assumptions. The first thing I like to do is browse through the expenses and delete any line items that are unnecessary. These could be items that are specific to the current ownership group, or it could be expenditures that aren't technically operating expenses. There's 3 different things that jump out to me as not being relevant. That would be amortization, depreciation expense, and mortgage interest. All 3 of these expenses are unique to the current ownership group and they're not technically operating expenses. If we were to own this property, we would incur these types of expenses, but they would be below the line and they would be unique to our ownership structure. So let's go ahead and delete those. The next thing I like to do is go through both revenues and expenses and recategorize any expenses that should be revenues or revenues that should be expenses. In this case, there's one that jumps out to me, and that would be bad debt. I consider bad debt a loss of revenue more than it is an expense. So I'm going to grab those 2 columns and I'm going to drag them up above the vacancy factor and then make this a negative 33,770. After excluding any unnecessary line items and recategorizing any expenses or revenues, then we can start categorizing. In the multifamily underwriting template, I'm going to grab the 9 expense categories, I'm going to copy them, and I'll paste them into the financial statements. I'm going to make the font a little smaller so it's easier to read. I'm going to relabel these expenses. You'll see why this is important in a second. So I'm going to call admin just A, marketing, M, management, and use an acronym, payroll, P, utilities, U, R&M. I'm going to lose the and side and just say RM, contract services, CS, insurance, I, and then property tax, PT. The following step is to go through these expenses one by one and assign them to the appropriate line items. I'm going to label this column as categories. And then we'll go through each line item and make a determination of what bucket it belongs in. So administrative expense is pretty simple. There'd be admin, or A, which we have coded off to the right. Marketing would be M, accounting, admin, bank charges I consider admin, wages, that would be P, payroll, electricity is a utility, we have that as U, fees and taxes I consider admin, gas, heating the units, that would be utility, insurance, liability, property, that would be I for insurance, insurance for workers' comp, that's more of a payroll item related to wages and workers, so that would be P. Licensing and permits is admin, legal, admin, maintenance, general would be RM, maintenance supplies would be RM, management fee, that's our management code, MGMT. Fees will categorize as admin, office supplies as admin, payroll tax has to do with payroll, real estate tax would be property taxes, water sewer, that's a utility, snow removal would be contract services, telephone feels like an administrative expense, trash could also be contract services, and then water would be the final expense item, and that would be classified as utilities. And now I'm just going to center this so it's a little easier to read. Realistically, with these expense categories, there's always going to be gray areas. There's definitely some leeway to put different expenses into various categories. Like a good example is trash. I think of that as a contract service, but I know a lot of people think of it as a repair and maintenance item or even a utility item. My advice is just to be consistent, come up with a framework and stick with it, because it's really going to help you to build a benchmark on what's a reasonable estimate for these various categories, but you just need to be consistent. Now we need to add up the totals for each category, and we don't want to do that manually. We want to lean on Excel, and I'm going to use a sum if function. So I'm going to do sum if, and then we're going to emphasize the categories range in column F and lock those cells. The criteria will be set to the cell in column G, and we're going to leave this cell unlocked because as we drag this formula, we want it to pick up the various codes below it. And then the sum range will be the expense amounts in column E. We're going to lock that cell, close the bracket, and now we can drag this formula down, make it a currency, make it a little easier to read. And now we have totals for admin, marketing, management, and so on. We want to verify this is correct and that our formula is picking up everything. Let's do a quick sum formula. Let's bold that so we're getting 381,316. If we look at the bottom, the total expenses from the financials, that's adding out as 381,316. So it checks out. Our formula worked. Now we can take these financials. I'm going to hit copy. We'll go back to our financial modeling template and we can paste as values. We have successfully scrubbed the financials, put them into a format our model will accept, and did a simple copy paste as values, and our task is complete. I want to point out that there are some clever new technologies that help you automate this financial scrubbing process. Personally, I've always enjoyed getting my hands a little bit dirty as it helps me assess and conceptualize what's happening at the property. It really forces me to think about each and every line item, and it helps me to think critically about the current operations, brainstorm questions for ownership, ponder solutions for high expenses or missing expenses, and really start to develop an understanding of the unique property facets. It didn't take a lot of time to do this, and for me, the extra time is worth it because there's valuable informational nuggets to be gained. So in summary, I taught you a method of scrubbing and categorizing historical financial statements that don't have an intuitive presentation. If you're underwriting a lot of projects, you're going to learn quickly that the property financial statements come in all shapes and sizes. Having a process in place that allows you to immerse yourself in the P&L while also efficiently organizing the document for ease of input into your proforma template is a great way to learn about the property, formulate questions, and make a plan. If you enjoyed this video and are curious how I handle other facets of underwriting, please let me know in the comments below. I know underwriting, it's a process from A to Z, and maybe there's somewhere along the lines that you're confused on, or would like some input or some advice on how to handle something, would be glad to continue making similar tutorial videos that hopefully make you smarter and make you more efficient. If you've been enjoying Tactical's financial analysis content, I'd really appreciate if you liked the video, subscribed, and allowed us to notify you when we're releasing new video content. We'll see you next time. Take care.